Giveaway, you say? Oh, yeah. Figure Fight Club is the official giveaway channel of Action Figure YouTube.
Thank you, members, for the love you bring, for every shared story and the joy you sing. To our sponsors, your support's the key. Together we build this legacy. Collectors unite in this fight we thrive. Figure Fight Club, our passions alive. Yeah. Unboxings and battles, the thrill of every find. Trading tales and treasures. Figure Fight Club Community. Welcome to Figure Fight Club. Welcome to Figure Fight Club, where collectors come to play. Discussions from relevance to hot toys shaped by collecting weight. Pour a drink for yourself, collect your thoughts. Join us on this journey in action-packed talks. In the club, the fight is on. Action figures shine like the break of dawn. Collectors gather around, any drink will do. In Figure Fight Club, we welcome you. Welcome with the flow, with the flow. Welcome with the flow, with the flow. Drinks up high, let's cheers. You're among collectors and like-minded peers. From stores to conventions, we take you backstage, exploring figures from modern day to the Stone Age. From the club, the fight is on. Action figures shine like the break of dawn. Collectors gather around, any drink will do. In Figure Fight Club, we welcome you. Welcome with the flow, with the flow.
Welcome! It's Plastic Journey, folks. Stop that right there. I want to say welcome to everyone in the chat. You guys are awesome. The replay squad as well. Amazing people. We have an exciting show for you guys tonight. We have a great guest on, and which I'm kind of curious about his journey too. But before we talk about him and bring him out, I want to bring out our co-hosts. So let's bring them out. Welcome, Lou and Salim.
What's going on, guys?
How are
you guys doing? Happy Friday.
It is
R.I.P. WWE roster. That's all I'm going to say about that. Good God.
Yeah. I mean, it's. We were talking behind the scenes or backstage, and Lou did mention after every WrestleMania, there's a lot of layoffs, right? So this is normal.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but
it's unfortunate. That's true.
The yearly trimming the fat kind of thing, whatever.
But we'll talk more about the wrestling stuff on the members only, since we do have the members only tonight. So let's bring out our guest of honor, Jeremy Girard. Welcome to Figure Fight Club.
Welcome, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on, dude. I definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is Plastic Journey, so we always want to talk about Journey. So I actually found out through a friend of mine from the Cabal that you are a big fan of Japanese robots and Godzilla. That's what he told me. So,
Javi, name us some Japanese robots.
Gundam.
I mean, they kind of robotic.
I like Ultraman.
What he's talking about specifically are like vintage Shogun warriors. So people at like shows that Four Horsemen are at, they're used to now coming up and seeing Shogun warriors in the back of the booth, and those are pretty much always mine. That's the main thing that I hunt down at toy shows these days.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. I think I saw a picture of you hugging a robot.
Yep.
You get any of the modern stuff? What was it, 3-0 or somebody else is doing them?
Bandai is reissuing them. So yes, I have been getting the Bandai reissues, and originally I was getting the vintage, and then when Bandai started doing the reissues, I was like, oh, I can just get the reissues. And then because I'm a collector and I have a sickness, I was like, ooh, it would be even cooler if I had the vintage next to the modern reissue. So now I'm buying both.
It is definitely a sickness, that's for sure. literally walking around my house earlier, and I was like, "What the hell's going on in my life?" Like, there's just boxes of toys everywhere. I was like, "What the hell?"
All four of us are sitting in rooms that the view behind us is filled with collectibles. So, but it's a good sickness to have.
It is.
It's a fun one, right? It's
Yeah.
absolutely.
It is.
It won't be an empty room when we're in a circle confessing our sins. That's for sure.
I mean, but that's the cool thing about the toys, right? You know, getting into this hobby, I found so many close friends. Just made so many great people, met so many great people, and I've made a lot of awesome friends out of this. And now some of them are like my best friends. I can call on them for anything, and it's amazing. And it's just not like, like these guys know like the name of my kids. They know my wife. My wife has their numbers, stuff like that. It's I feel like it's a little different, and it's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
We even feed each other's collecting habits. Like somebody might be getting some One Piece cards in the mail because
I appreciate you, Talon. I do like One Piece. That's been my new obsession recently. But let's go back to you, Jeremy. Now, you talked about the obsession, right, with action figures, and how long have you been collecting for?
So I started, I would say, collecting when I was about 18 years old. So I'm 51 now. So, you can do the math. It's quite a few years. I mean, obviously, as a kid, I, played with action figures, and I was a big action figure kid as a kid. But when I was actually 17 years old, I was getting my first tattoo, and the tattoo artist had some of the Kenner Aliens figures at the shop. And I was like, oh, what are these? These things are so cool. And at the time, I had never seen action figures that were that detailed, much less from an R-rated movie. Today, I mean, obviously we see action figures from R-rated movies all the time, but this was back in like 1993, I think it would have been, that I'm looking at these things. So I hunted down those Kenner Aliens, and that's really what got me back into the toy aisle as an adult. Again, I was 17 and, right on the cusp of being 18. So that's really when my collecting started. And right from Kenner Aliens, that was the time when McFarlane Toys, or at the time it was Todd Toys, Spawn line was coming out. And that's really the line that between Kenner Aliens and McFarlane Toys Spawn that got me to be a collector.
No, so that was actually my next question. How did you get started? Like, what got you started? And you answered that perfectly.
Yeah.
So what was it about the Spawn toys and the Kenner toys? Like, was it the details? Was it like the articulation?
It wasn't the articulation, because I mean, a
Spawn,
lot of toys were very unarticulated.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't come into the Spawn toys as a comic reader. I had no idea about the first Spawn comic I read was the little 5-page comic that came in the action figure. It was the fact that it was something new and it was kind of edgy for, I was like, these like action figures of demons and stuff. I mean, the idea of Spawn is this guy is basically murdered and he becomes this conduit of a hellspawn. His costume is a hellspawn and he comes to get revenge. It was a very edgy kind of story, and that appealed to me as an 18-year-old. The detail of them, the way that they looked, and then I got that collector itch because they were variants and there were exclusives and all these other things, and that's really what started me down kind of that road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, were you displaying them as well, or were you just kind of keeping them a secret? Or
no, I was displaying them all. I've never been ashamed of being a toy collector. It seems like over the years, kind of geek culture has become a lot more acceptable. I was never worried about letting my geek flag fly. It was totally fine with me. So at the time, I was collecting both packaged Spawn figures, and I just put them all up on a wall, but I was collecting them all loose as well. And I was living with my parents at this point, but I had space in the basement that was all of my toy collection. So I never never was ashamed of letting people know that I was into the hobby.
Okay. I mean, again, there's a lot of collectors out there who either hide it from, from the public or from, just acquaintances,
sure.
things like that.
For sure.
I'll even tell a story on that standpoint. The time when I definitely felt, the only time I can remember feeling weird was I have 2 kids, and there was a point where when you have kids that are in school, you start becoming friendly with other people whose kids are in that school as well. And people that you may not have anything in common with other than the fact that your kids go to school together. And I remember having people over the house, and these guys looked at my collection and they were like, oh, wow, this must be worth so much money. You could sell this, and get a bunch of money. And it pissed me off because I was like, okay, if this was a room full of sports memorabilia, or if this was a sports car in my garage, they wouldn't be saying you could sell this. When someone like that says you could sell this for a lot of money, what they're saying is this isn't worth anything to me, so you could sell it and buy something way cooler. That was the only time that I felt kind of weird. I felt like people that were seeing it didn't understand it. But beyond that, now you mentioned like meeting people in this hobby and making friendships, definitely with like the Legions lines and, the Cabal and all the Legionnaires, I've certainly found my people now. And now I have no reservations about any of that.
Okay.
Well, another thing is if you bring normies in on it, they might look at it and be like, oh, I can do this too. And then just spread the disease.
Yeah. It's happened. It's definitely happened.
Yeah, it reminds me of a funny story that you mentioned about, like, because my kids are, 9 and 6 years old now, and there's been, like, play dates and stuff. You drop them off at their friends' houses. I guess my kids talk a lot, right? So apparently my kid told his friend's father that I'm a big collector as well. And then they called me to say, hey, you need to come pick me up because when it's time, because he wants to show the whole house. And he had a whole house full of collectibles. It was the funniest thing. I was like, wait a second, your wife lets you get away with all this? And he was like, yeah, she doesn't care. I was like, no way. What's the secret? He had like hot toys in the living room. I was like, whoa. Like movie posters up like on the stairs. My wife is like very restrictive, right? She's like, all right, you get your office, you get your man cave upstairs, and that's it. None of your toys can be anywhere else in the house, but minus the laundry room where I keep boxes.
There we go.
Yeah, but so speaking of toy space, how's your toy space? You have that room, in the ones you're in right now. Is that it? Is there more? Are they all over the house?
This is a fairly large space down here. So I moved somewhat recently. At my previous house in the basement, I had my toy collection and the family room was there as well. One of the reasons we moved was to get a larger space. I do have 2 adult children. So living in a smaller space with literally 4 adults was just getting to be a bit much. The new house is larger. We've all got kind of our own space, including me having the basement here to really spread out and do everything that I want to do. There's like, I don't know, 1,200 square feet down here, space that I've got just for the toys. So it's at the old house, the collection, all of the details were literally as close as you could get. And one of the nice things here was I was able to space things out to display it. So gives your eyes some visual kind of breaks. But I actually like having all of the collection here. I treat my collection very museum-like. Like I like it to be very much, very curated displays and not really having it in the rest of the house. I have lots of other weird stuff in the rest of the house, a lot of art and stuff like that. So kind of everything in its place.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. What type of art, if you don't mind me asking?
Just lots of different stuff. We've picked up a lot of, over the years, we travel quite a bit. So over the years, we've picked up lots of different things and just, whether it's actual physical, like painted art or stuff like that, or it's I mean, years ago, we went to a place there. We got all these like weird little trolls made out of like leaves and stuff and wood and everything that this Hill family down in Tennessee makes. Like just lots of random stuff we've collected over the years.
Nice. That sounds fun, actually.
Interesting.
Now, talking about collecting. So, since you were 17, what different lines have you collected, and how much of that do you still have?
Did I lose you guys?
Did I lose you guys?
Nope.
Somewhere, but I don't know where it was at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Bobby, you're going to have to repeat your question.
So my question was, about collecting. Since you were 17 years old, what different lines have you collected, and how much of that stuff do you still have today versus some of the newer lines that you've been collecting today?
So, I mean, I've collected pretty much everything at one point or another. In the early days of collecting, it was almost like rabid, where like I was buying anything that looked remotely cool. Like I was buying, stuff that I had no connection to at all, but I was like, oh, it's got a skull for a head. That's cool. And I was buying it. And of course, that's not sustainable. So you get to a point where you kind of have to slow down. But like any healthy collection, I've cycled things out. I mean, there was a point that I had like a full run of Toy Biz Lord of the Rings. I have none of them anymore. The only Toy Biz Lord of the Rings I have are the ones I've torn apart to use for Mythic Legions customs. So stuff like that always cycles. It's you look throughout that era. Since I started collecting, I've pretty much had every line of note in the collection at one point or another. Some of the stuff, I mean, all the way back to Spawn, I do still have some of those original Spawn figures that I got back in, 1993, 1994. I still have some of those in my collection today. And then a lot of other stuff has cycled out. These days, did you ask what I'm collecting these days?
Yeah. What else? Yeah. Like, I guess it'd be this, like you said, there's so many lines out there.
Yeah.
And you did talk about the robots earlier on, and that's something you'll continue to get.
I lately at toy shows, I buy a lot of vintage stuff. Yeah, and I wasn't a vintage collector for a long time, but with Four Horsemen doing the number of shows that I'm doing now, I see all this stuff that's like very nostalgic and it brings me back. And I've been buying a lot more vintage stuff at shows. And sometimes it's expensive stuff. Back at Toylanta, I bought a boxed Shogun Warriors Godzilla that was in the nicest box I've ever seen for one of those. That's a very high ticket item, but I also buy things that are $5 that I'm just like, hey, this is a little loose figure from Battlestar Galactica that I had as a kid, and it just plucks that nostalgia string. So I do buy a lot of vintage at shows. As far as modern stuff goes, I've been buying a lot of Mondo these days.
Okay.
Yeah, I buy. So a lot of the stuff I buy these days are things that I have a connection to the creators in some way. So like Peter and Hector from Mondo are just absolutely such cool guys. I love both of those guys so much. So hearing them talk about the work that they're doing, it's very, it makes me want to support it and everything. So I've been buying a bunch of different Mondo stuff. The Mondo 1/6 scale turtles that they're doing. All in on those. I do buy a lot of the Mondo 1/6 scale Masters of the Universe as well. And then a lot of the vinyls that they put out, artists like Jesse Hernandez, Peter Santa Maria, Attack Peter, James Groman, a bunch of these guys, a lot of the big vinyls that they do of like Godzilla and stuff like that. I've been getting a lot of those. In terms of more mass market stuff, I've been buying a lot of NECA, weirdly enough. I didn't buy NECA for years, but the Ben Cooper Kids, I've been buying all of the Ben Cooper Kids figures. Those are a lot of fun.
Those are the ones with the Halloween style mask, trick or treat. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I had Ben Cooper costumes when I was a kid, so it absolutely like hits that nostalgia for me. So I've totally been buying those. What else?
Have you gotten? Did you
got-
get in on the those Ghostbusters, the Mondo Ghostbusters figures?
Ooh, yeah.
I have not, and I've heard they're like the best Ghostbusters. I don't have a really strong connection to the animated Ghostbusters, so
Gotcha.
that was one where they looked awesome, but in the spirit of you can't buy everything, that was one that I was like, okay, those I can actually skip.
Yeah. I got
Jada Toys, their Scooby-Doo line, that's one that I've been buying quite a bit of. Well, quite a bit. They only have one wave so far. I said NECA Toys, their Sesame Street line. I buy a lot of weird stuff. Like, my stuff is all over the place in terms of what I get. G.I. Joe, I buy random G.I. Joe classified here and there when I see one that I remember as a kid and I actually like.
Okay.
I would
Yeah, see,
imagine a fine line going all to these shows to be a vendor, and then you're like, oh shit, I want that. Oh, give me 2 of those.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time when you're vending a show, though, you do walk around and you see, like, if you're a collector. I mean, every show I go to where I'm vending, I have my own box of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, generally, that's how it works. Like, it's like, all right, I'm selling all this, but this is coming home with me. So that's how it works.
Because we do a lot of the same shows, I start to get like sellers that I know they sell the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So I will tend to make it a point to hit up their booths like as early as possible to get some of the stuff that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I mean, that does make sense, actually. Well, it's also the fact that as a vendor, we like you do have the ability to walk around earlier than most of the crowd and see what's going on. And again, you probably know a lot of the other vendors as well. So yeah, that does work.
A lot of the stuff I'm looking for at a show is a higher ticket item. So I'm going to like toy department. Like, I'm going to hit up a booth like that because I know they've got really, really good high-end vintage stuff. Toy Federation. Those are the type of booths I'm going to hit up because I know they've got stuff that it'll be the only one of that on the floor, and it's one of the key pieces I'm looking for.
I'm spoiled to have the toy department as close as they are to me.
Oh, they are not close to me at all, so I take advantage of it when I see them at a show.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, they hooked me up when I was at Toylanta this year. They were the only ones that had the blue suited Monster Force guys. Only ones that had them left, and I was able to grab 2 more. So
nice.
Like, yeah, good catch, good timing.
I did end up Sudahuba had to leave, but he did gift 1 Figure Fight Club membership out. Sudahuba, thank you very much, man. If you do catch this on the replay, it did go to Schmerberber. Welcome to being a Figure Fight Club member. And, we do our members only streams right after Plastic Journeys. So definitely tune in for that. We do giveaways always on the member streams. So you have a chance of winning a giveaway. Yes. Lou, would you like to hit your favorite video? Lou hits his button so many times. Go ahead.
Not just my favorite video.
That's everybody's favorite video.
Hi guys, this is Faces by Rachie here, and I just want to let you guys know that I love Figure Fight Club. Whoop.
Everyone loves that video.
It is a nice video. I agree.
Except for Abby.
I mean, it gets overplayed. Anyways, Sunuba, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Back to the questions. Now, was there any figure that kind of changed your perspective? Like, now I'm a serious collector. Like, this is it. This changed my whole perspective on collecting.
I mean, the easiest one to say is probably Wave 1 of Mythic Legions, because where I am today, both as a professional and as a collector, I mean, that was, a pivot point for me where once I started collecting that, it really dominated the collection. A lot of other stuff took a bit of a back seat. That became the focus as a collector, as a customizer, and then eventually as, a member of Four Horsemen Studios. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that is probably the most notable kind of pivot point for me.
Okay. I mean, we'll definitely get to Four Horsemen Studios as well. Now, here's a hard question. It may not be hard. I almost want to eliminate Four Horsemen from this answer, to be honest with you. If you had to choose one line, which would that be?
Like one line to continue collecting?
Yes.
So I'm going to pick them. I'm not going to go vintage. I'm going to pick a modern line that I'm collecting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably. Dang, that's a hard one because I'm all over the place with stuff.
And so people who collect so many different lines, it does get difficult to choose just one sometimes. And I I'm in that boat too. So,
I mean, Mezco. I get quite a bit of Mezco 112 collective, so that would probably be one that I would stick with.
Before you were Mythic Customs, you were Mezco Customs, right?
No, vice versa. Mythic Customs was how I started, and then I did some Mezco Customs. There was a hot minute there where I was buying multiple like 112 figures, 112 collective figures, and doing those customs as well. But again, that was not very sustainable after a while. So
Mezcos do add up over time for sure. I mean, they've gotten worse today though compared to what it was a few years ago. Yeah.
I got into Mezco at like that crazy time, like the time where every drop was selling out in like minutes. And I was really focused on Rumble Society. And it was like, that was the point where all the Rumblers were just selling super, super fast. And I was scrambling to try to get extras of them. You know, I had 2 different accounts so I could order like 2 not even a flip, but just because I wanted 2 of each because they came with like 2 different heads and I wanted to display both heads. So I really got in at that like super hot moment where it was hard to get some of this stuff.
But even today, Rumble Society, it's hard to get those figures because they do sell out very quickly because they put the most love into those Rumble Society figures than they do most of the other IPs that they have.
I feel like it's coming back. There was a period of time there. They were super hard to get. And then I think they started up in the production. And there was a point with like the Krieg figures where, you know, those were a lot easier to get. And I think people cooled on it a little bit. And, you know, Mezco was just like, just wait. And then they started just releasing some fire. And, you know, now once again, they're getting very difficult to come by.
That coincided with maybe when things were weird and there were more collectors out there than there normally was.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely that point where, you know, after COVID and everything, everyone had that extra income and that extra time, and people were going crazy with collectibles.
I mean, honestly, like during COVID is when I went really hard on Mezco.
Yep.
Like go ahead.
I noticed that with Fans Toys, the third-party Transformers company. Those were super hard to get at one point, and that was around that time.
During COVID, it was. I mean, people were selling stuff for really cheap, though. I swear, I bought the Lone Roach, right? That's like the highlight. Yeah, I got that for $100.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, what? $100? Like, yes, I'm in.
That was the one. So my first Mezco I ever got was Baron Benz. And I was like, because Cornboy that I work with, he's a huge Mezco 112 collector. He has every single one. And he was telling me how great they are. And I was like, I'm not really into soft goods, but I'll give it a shot. And I bought Baron Benz, and Baron Benz looks like a Scooby-Doo villain, which like I love, right? Absolutely love that stuff. I saw someone just mention Jada Scooby-Doo. Yeah, dude, I love that line. So Baron Benz reminded me of that. And I said, okay, I really do like this, but I feel like I got to get a Gomez. And the minute I saw Lone Roach in Grub, so I'm a big fan of the Lone Wolf and Cub manga series. I have that whole series. I've read that whole series. I love it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of a tribute to Lone Wolf and Cub. Let me get that. But I was going to get one Gomez. And then as soon as I had it, I was like, well, I need all the Gomez figures now. To this day, in my collection, any non-Rumble figure I have has a Gomez head on it. So if I buy like Batman Gotham by Gaslight, I pop the head off and I put a Gomez on. I Gomez every single Mezco I have, unless it's a Rumble character.
Okay, I get that though. I mean, again, Gomez is like it's one of those mascots, right? That you have a lot of love for. And I did, at one point, I probably had like 25 to 30 different Gomezes, and I was customizing them as well. Like I made a Flash version of Gomez, and I used to love that one. That was a fun one because you had the bolt, like lightning bolt as well.
Yep.
So it was a lot of fun, and then like the Batman version as well. And so these customizers, right? They could do a lot of cool things with the Gomez head.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So I definitely understand that. So Mezco, I love Mezco, so I can't. Now, I guess let me ask you this question. Now, Mezco specific, what are your top 5 Mezcos in your collection?
Probably Lone Roach, Baron Benz.
Baron Benz, okay. The blue one or the black one?
Baron Benz. I think I probably like the black one better, but I'm going to put blue because it's my original one.
Okay.
Pink Skulls, the Gig from Hell. That set is just perfect. I love that set so much. I mean, maybe the big mech suit that Gomez came with. That's an easy one to put because that one's a lot of fun. The Nosferatu, I like a lot.
Nosferatu is a good one too. I like the first one better than the second one. Though.
That's the ones. The last one I'll say is Solomon Kane. Now, granted, my Solomon Kane has a Gomez head on it, and I poked little holes in his hat so his antenna comes out. But yeah, those will be the ones that I'll pick as my favorites.
You made like a Gomez the Ripper.
There you go. Gomez Vampire Hunter.
I like it. That's cool. Now, I guess let me ask this. So we asked about the Mezcos. Now, what about top 5 in the entire collection of everything that you have?
I have so much that it's hard for me to choose, and it fluctuates based on, the story behind it and what's the newest things I've gotten. I mean, the Shogun Warriors that we're talking about, those are really cool. There's one called Guy King that I always loved as a kid that my family bought me for Christmas a couple years ago, a really nice version. So the Guy King and the Godzilla are probably my 2 favorite Shoguns that I have. Other figures that I really like a lot. I'm trying to think here. I'm looking around and I'm like, what's around me that I can pick? There's just so much. Behind me there's a Super 7 like NASA Snoopy that the orange version is limited to 75 pieces worldwide. That's a really cool one that I like a lot. Gorgo Aetherblade from Mythic Legions is probably one of my favorite Mythic Legions because it was the one that really got me started. I don't think it's the best one we've done, but that one holds that sentimental kind of point for me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple there. The male Bolgia from Spawn Series 2, that's a figure that I remember hunting for so long and finding on a peg. And even though it's not the greatest figure, it's just every time I look at it, I remember that feeling of getting it. So that's another one that's every time I look at, I have that collecting memory.
Okay. Now, I guess since we're on top 5s, might as well ask this question as well. Top 5 Legions.
Scapula of the Crypt Breaker 2, which is just out in the Rising Suns wave. That's, in my opinion, the best figure we've done. I have a real soft spot for the Tale of the Crossroads figures that were in today's in-stock sale. Those are probably my favorite characters that I've created for Mythic Legions. So the Warrior / Revenant and the Nymph Chirel, those are 2 I really, really love. Like I said, Gorgo Aetherblade is one that I really, really like a lot. So that's 3 so far. Let's see what else would I pick there. The Bodvar Bear that we just released, that one's pretty amazing as well.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those.
Yeah, that's an incredible figure. And I really like Sir Gideon Heavensbrand, especially on his bishop horse from the Necronominus wave. Those are 5 that come to mind.
Okay.
All right. Now, I mean, I'm going to bring up some questions from the chat.
Sure.
To the chat, I've been starring these questions, so definitely keep asking. So this is from Travis P. Jeremy, has your passion for figures grown, or is it the same as it was before you went to work for the Four Horsemen?
Absolutely grown in a couple ways. I mean, like I said, buying all the vintage that I'm buying these days is because I've become more of a curated toy collector since, I love the artistry of toys. I love the history of toys. So that has really increased since I've joined Four Horsemen, and my appreciation, knowing what goes in to actually getting toys from idea to being in your hand is so much more work than I was ever aware of as a collector. So now that I'm in the industry and in this company, I appreciate it more. And yeah, without a doubt, my passion for action figures and for toys and for the collecting community has grown significantly during my time with Four Horsemen Studios.
So that's a good story to find out about. The idea to the actual physical toy in hand. We'll get to that after I finish up the chat questions.
Yeah.
Here's another one from Travis P. Jeremy, what drove you to create your great show, Mythic Conversations?
Oh goodness! So I did a show like this. I can't remember the name of the show. I honestly, I'm drawing a blank right now, but I did a show like this, right? And I really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed talking. And I was looking at the chat during the conversation we had, and the hosts weren't asking any of those questions. We were just talking, and I was like, I really want to answer these questions. This is really engaging. So I had so much fun doing that within a couple weeks, I was like, you know what? I think I want to do a live stream myself because I want to, engage with the people that are in the chat more than I was able to do so. Breaking the Mold, that was the name of the show.
Breaking the Mold.
More than I could do with that show. So that's what made me start Mythic Conversations, was just wanting to share my love of my collecting and what I was doing with, my customizing at the time with a larger audience.
Okay. Let's go to one of our co-hosts, Initial Goose Creations. Hey, Jeremy, so if your childhood self could see your work and office now, what do you think would blow their mind the most?
Probably the fact that I now am blessed with the fact that I can come up with figure ideas and stories and they actually get made. I that never gets old. I am someone that never takes for granted how lucky I am, how fortunate I am. So, for years I was doing customs just to put in my collection. And then the first time I sold customs and I realized that people actually wanted something I had created in their toy collection, that was like an aha moment. That was very surprising to me. So taking that a step further and now being able to help design action figures and write all of these stories, and being able to collaborate with, people who I've collected, Four Horsemen products since I started collecting. Like we talked about Spawn Series 1. This figure right here, this Bendy Violator from Spawn Series 1, this is Eric Treadaway's first action figure that he ever designed. And I had this in my collection. I loved this figure. The fact that I now collaborate with Eric on basically a daily basis on created stuff, that's an amazing, amazing thing for me. So yeah, my childhood self would be just not only blown away by the scope of all the toys I own, but by the fact that I get to actually create toys that other people have in their collections.
Mhm.
Yeah. I would definitely understand that for sure. Magna Figure Photo. Jeremy, I know double joints are working their way into the figure line. Any idea when it will be a standard?
I don't think it will ever be a standard. It's one tool in the toolbox that we're now starting to use, but saying that, you know, every figure needs double joints versus no figures need double joints versus whatever, like, it's going to be a case by case basis. We've had some figures recently that we've developed where the double jointed arms didn't work, but the double jointed legs worked great. Like, that gave us the look we want. At the end of the day, our company is, articulation is important to us, but we've got aesthetic and the sculptural quality. That has always been a hallmark of Legions, of Four Horsemen Studios. The swappability and the Legions build system, that is critically important as well. So we've got to take all of those into account with range of motion and articulation. So that's why there's sometimes where we'll do something like Valiant Knight that may not have double joints, but has pretty much the same range of motions as you would realistically get with them. But then there's other times where we're pushing that and we're saying, no, we're going to actually add double joints to these. So we've got a few figures out there. The Mouse King that came out, that had the double jointed arms, and that was very, very well received by not only the collector community as a whole, but by our fan base. So the Reign of the Beasts wave that is in production, it's in pre-production now. We've started seeing some samples of those, and they're super fun. They look really, really good. There's a couple figures in that wave, including a more human character, the Golden Pride of Leandor, that's got the double joints. So you're going to start seeing that. You are seeing that across our lines. We're doing that more and more, but it's always going to be one of the tools that we bring to bear when the figure calls for it.
Okay. Let's see. Another chat question. True Star Screamer is asking, Jamie, are you excited for the movie Motu figures?
I am not. And that is, dude, I'm being honest with you. That's not a knock on those figures at all. They're not for me. Like, I have my favorite Masters of the Universe, like, aesthetic is 2000X. So I still have a whole bunch of 2000X figures. Once again, Eric Treadaway designs. I love those, and I love the Mondo stuff, because the Mondo stuff is modern takes on the 2000X. That's the aesthetic that I really like. So that's the stuff that I'm already buying. I really like Motu. I grew up with Masters of the Universe, but I don't have a large enough collection of it that I need every single subline. So right now, all I'm collecting is the Mondo Masters of the Universe stuff to go with my existing 2000X. So while the movie stuff I think looks great, I think the movie's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited to see it. The figures are not something that I'm expecting to add to my collection.
Okay.
And that's what kind of makes it nice with like that Mondo stuff. It's almost like the definitive version, or at least your definitive version, where you just need that one and you're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think bigger picture with a line like Masters of the Universe, there's so many options out there for you that you can find the style that you like the best, that you want to add. And that's not taking away from any of the ones you may not choose to collect. I love the fact that there's so much variety for collectors to choose from.
Right. And like your taste could be different from my taste. So maybe I might like those Chronicle stuff. And
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think there was another chat question as well. There's two. Sorry. Initial Goose. I'll just skip to the question. Which toy in your collection would taste the best if you randomly decided to eat one?
I have no idea how to answer that.
We have this thing on Tuesdays where a lot of toys get chewed up on by one of our co-hosts.
Okay. I'm going to say this one's right here. I'm gonna pick this This is my Attack Peter Vice City Rage variant of Takaro, and the colors of this make it look like a Laffy Taffy. So I'm going to say that this would taste the best because it looks like candy to me, and I have a wicked bad sweet tooth.
All right.
Good answer. Good answer.
I think that's like the only way you can really answer that question. Thanks for making it awkward.
It looks like Curb. Hi again. I'm new to the line. Would there be double joints or smaller figures like, say, goblins?
I mean, there could be. Again, when you get to the smaller figures, because so once again, all our figures have to be compatible, right? And they have to be swappable, and you have to pop these pieces apart. There's a certain amount of clearance that you need to add certain pegs in. So there are times where, to maintain the type of peg system that's going to make it compatible, there are certain joints we cannot add. They're just like, we try to engineer it and we say there's not enough room here. The plastic's not going to have enough space to do what we need it to do. So at that point, we either say, okay, do we break backwards compatibility? Which sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes we say, yes, let's add this new articulation or this new piece in. We're going to break backwards compatibility. But that's a decision that we have to make. Having the need for that backwards compatibility adds another level to the engineering that we have to consider. So could there be double joints on smaller figures in the future? Absolutely. There's always a chance. But it's not, like I said, it's a tool. It's not a guarantee that every single thing, now that we've introduced double joints, it's not automatic that everything gets it. It's a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And then I did want to bring up True Star Screamer gifted 1 Figure Fight Club membership. Thank you very much, True Star Screamer. It went to 610 Yojo Daddy. Congrats for being a member. You know what? Maybe I'll just play the video.
No. All right. You know what? You go ahead, Abby.
I'll play the video. Thank you.
Make everybody upset everybody in the chat.
I would have already played it by now, but
look at that. A tasty, tasty super chat. Thank you so much for the love.
Okay, now that shouldn't upset anybody in the chat, so we're okay. We're okay.
Hey, listen, I show love to our co-host. Okay, that's Jenna Say What. She's our co-host. She comes on Tuesdays.
100%.
Yes. Back to, and again, to the chat, make sure to drop those questions. It looks like there's a lot of new to Mythic Legions collecting, but I feel like they're just kind of, I think they've already been collected.
You're all.
I figured.
Yes.
That was the thing. But I guess this could be a serious question. I have no idea. But do you think there will be a Sir Gerard version 2 anytime soon?
Possibly. It's a sold out figure. It's a popular figure. So you never know. We've got a lot of things that we've got to get to probably before a Sir Gerard version 2, but you never know what the future could hold.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Good.
Now, I guess I liked what you said when you're involved with the idea, the story, then to the physical figure in hand. So what is that process like for you, at least at Four Horsemen?
Okay, so it depends on the figure. If it's, some of the figures we do that use, existing parts, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the con figures use existing parts. So the process for creating those is typically going to be a little bit different than the process for creating brand new figures that have newly sculpted parts. So for those figures, like our end of the year waves, the stuff that we reveal at Legions Con every year, typically the way that works is Eric and myself, we start talking about wave ideas a year in advance. We've got a story arc, so we know kind of where we're heading, and we'll start talking about, like, okay, this end of year wave, what themes do we want to talk about? Like, how do we want to move the story forward? At the end of the day, it's all about putting out really good toys, but we are being way more cognizant of the story we're telling at the same time. So we start talking about that, and we just start kind of brainstorming and throwing out wish list items, like what types of characters do we want? And we try to make sure we've got a balance. Like, do we have a good mix of characters? Are we too heavy on one kind of character versus another? Eric loves variety of sizes. So do we have some bigger characters, some smaller characters, some, wider characters? We try to figure out how we can add that visual variety through the wave. Then at that point, Eric just starts like throwing together really rough ideas. And even, we did a wave last year called Horror of Einsamal, and it's got like a little fox guy in it. And the initial designs for the little fox guy, he just pulled in a head from another one of our characters, Thistlethorn, which is a little fuzzy character. And even though he didn't intend that head to be there, it's placeholder. We're just trying to like do quick mock-ups to say like, okay, this is giving us a sense of what it looks like. So we work kind of like almost low fidelity at that point, coming up with some ideas. And then once we like where we are, he starts doing all of his sculpting. I'll start doing some writing. So I'll start creating bios and everything. And as he starts showing me designs, I can flesh out the stories. Or sometimes I'll have a really cool idea for a story, and that will help drive him to say, oh, yeah, this is cool. I'll do this here. Like one of the things, the Rising Suns wave that's actually available now, that's hitting now, we were working on that at the same time that I was working a lot on like a lore book that we're putting out there. And like the character of Scapular, there's a scene in there where he wears a disguise and he refers to himself as Emir Kaspar. And that was a character I created for the book. And as Eric and I were talking, we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there were like alternate parts in Scapular that you could make his alter ego? You can make Emir Kaspar. So the red robe, the metal mask, all of that came from that story. Even he has a blowgun in that figure. And I wrote the blowgun, and Eric said, oh, it's funny that you gave him a blowgun. And I was like, why? And he said, well, he's a skeleton. He's got no lungs. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I'll change it to a different weapon. And he's like, no, I think it's hysterical. Like Scapular would use a blowgun just because he's like such a Mac that he'll find a way to do it. So we gave a skeleton a blowgun, which makes no sense, but is a lot of fun. So that's kind of how the creative process works. There's a lot of ping-ponging back and forth, but Eric is really creating, this world is all him. So he's creating all of these sculptures, and Eric and I work very well together. We have a very similar we're the same age. We have a very similar upbringing and socioeconomic background. So we have a lot of the same references. We grew up with the same movies and cartoons and toys. So we draw on a lot of the same stuff. And we'll just ping pong back and forth to kind of get to that final point for what the character looks like and then what the story is going to be for it.
Now, the pinging, kind of going back and forth, has there ever been frustration? I'm assuming there has been late night frustration, probably building up sometimes over characters. And again, it's human, right? It's human nature to be that way sometimes, and it does happen. I get it.
This is the most boring answer ever, but there hasn't been.
Really?
There really, really hasn't been. And that's not to say that like we're 100% on the same page with every single decision. But, at the end of the day, this is Eric's baby. And I understand and respect that. And I came in as a fan, and that's one of the things that I think allows us to work so well together is there are times where you create something and somebody else comes in and they want to put their stamp on it. Like they want to they want their fingerprints on it. And I've never been like that. I love what's created and I just want to do more of that. Like I love it. And whenever I can add to it, I'm excited for that. But when you're already such a fan of the property, the stuff that you're creating tends to fit in with that. So it would be great to say like, oh yeah, this one figure, we kind of butted heads and had to come to this agreement. It's genuinely never happened. We work really well together. It's the exact opposite where he's like, what about this? And I'm like, that's awesome. Can we do this? And he's like, that makes it cooler. What about this? And we get to a point where we're all just kind of building on to the ideas to come up with that final thing. But there's really never been a moment that we've said that we've gotten into that argument. The closest one was the first, someone's talked about Sir Girard. Sir Girard was the first Legions Con exclusive figure. And I wanted to use Scapular, the Crypt Breaker's head, on that figure as an alternate, as the show exclusive piece. And this was a point where Eric didn't like using main character heads on anything but the main character. So he said, look, I like everything you've done. I don't want to use the Scapular head. And I said, okay, here. And I wanted to use it because at the time that head was impossible to find. It only came on Scapular and Keltis, two really hard to find figures. So I said, I was like, here's my idea for Sir Girard. Sir Girard is a changeling. He can take on anybody's form. I did this so people could pop any head on a Sir Girard and go, it's canon. He's a changeling. He can look like anybody. There's a joke in our community. People call me LBC, which means Lazy Boy Customizer. And my friend Travis Bowles from My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me, he started calling me that. When I was putting out elaborate customs, he was calling me Lazy Boy Customizer just to like kind of make fun of me, just to like good natured ribbing, right? Yeah, so this idea of an LBC, a Lazy Boy custom, became something that I embraced and I enjoyed. So the idea that you could put any head on Sir Girard and it was canon, I thought was fun. So I said to Eric, Sir Girard's a changeling. He takes on Scapular's form as a way to get other people to follow him. So, because he's trying to like undermine Scapular. So he's doing it kind of like Zartan does in G.I. Joe, where he's taking on that disguise to be someone else. And Eric looked at me and he was like, that's a cool idea. We can do it. So that was the one time that I remember him genuinely saying no, but I explained what my idea was. And Eric is a creative. Once you give him a reason why it makes sense, he's like, I like that. We can do it.
Okay.
That's awesome. Now,
just to kind of talk about, like the diversity of the line. This is one of the questions my friend messaged me about. As you recently revealed a new map of Mythos, will we see more diversity in the line? Perhaps sword and sorcery lore based on Asian, African, Mesoamerican, Indian/Arabic cultures?
Dude, is that guy in our meetings? I believe.
Possibly.
No, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that we were excited about with the new map. So we announced at Legions Con a few years ago that like, hey, this map of Mythos we've all lived with for 10 years that we've all said, yeah, this is the world. That's like looking through a keyhole. It's only a little bit. And not only have we, the fans, not known that there's stuff outside of that map, but the characters that live on that continent weren't aware that there's a larger world out there. And we have story reasons why that happened, but this is going to allow us to explore a lot of themes we've yet to explore. In the one we did at G-Con, Dawns of Discovery, we got onto the water. So we've said we've never done aquatic type figures, and we went deep, no pun intended, into the aquatic type of characters with that wave. So as we explore more of the old continents of Mythos, we're going to be able to see other types of characters. And these could be other type of mythological creatures like dragons that we haven't seen in the line until now, or it could be other, real world cultures that we're taking influence from. We've obviously taken influence in the past from Mesoamerican. We've taken it from, a lot of European, but we've got characters that look like Spartans, and we've got Templar Knights and everything. So we've taken real world influences and used them in our story. That will continue with other types of characters and cultures like that question is referencing.
Okay, you've even from the Indian thing, Churel is it's an Indian word, right, for the witch. Yeah,
it is. Yep.
Yeah. So we do see these things. We appreciate it too. Basically,
representation is incredibly important. We believe in that, and we also are just influenced by all these amazing stories and lore. Like the mythology of different world cultures is absolutely fascinating. So being able to take some of that, and sometimes it's a much more literal translation. I mean, obviously what we do with Figure Obscura is much more literal translations, but other times we're taking elements of these things and we're trying to use it in a respectful way to influence kind of our fantasy world.
okay. Yeah. Now, oh, go ahead, Lou.
No, I just said I like that. I think that's fantastic. You can, it's endless for you. You know, you can explore new and you just grow it.
Yep.
It just kind of reminds me of like Star Wars. You could build an entire world, and
Right,
it could
an entire universe, right?
Yeah.
An entire universe, and you can do it piece by piece, like you're saying. What we know now is one small continent of the bigger world.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And it's also interesting because everything gets filtered through kind of the Legion's filter, the Eric Treadaway filter. You know, like when people wanted us to do pirates, you know, we did pirates in Dawns of Discovery, but not the kind of pirates that people probably expected. You know, we didn't have, you know, yo ho ho, peg legs, and, you know, Blackbeard style pirates. Nothing against that. Those are super cool. And I guarantee people would have loved that. But that type of very on the nose tends to not be what Eric is super excited about. He likes to say, like, okay, what do I do with a pirate? Like, what tropes do I want to use? How do I twist them around? How do we make this mythic? So that's always an exciting part for me as both a creator and as a fan to see what those influences look like when they're put through that mythic lens.
Mhm. Okay. Now there was another question that my friend had sent me. There's a few actually. I wrote most of them down. So he asked. He's like, we have a horse, we have a moose, and a bear. Any thoughts on a winged mount?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, we've talked multiple times about putting wings on the horse to do a Pegasus. I mean, that is a very low-hanging fruit type of one. Unfortunately, the horse body that we have now doesn't lend itself to wings going in, so it needs some new tooling. But without a doubt, you know, we've said before, you know, Griffins and Pegasus and, you know, all of those type of, you know, mythological creatures, many of which are winged creatures. We think they're all awesome and we'd love to get them into the line. One of our biggest challenges is finding the time to do all the ideas that we have. So the answer is yes, we want them in the line. We've just got to figure out where they fit.
Okay. Now, what about like vehicles, like boats? That would be amazing. Like you guys obviously have shown off the dragon bear there, and that's huge. Just what was it, like 6 feet, I think, from fire piece to tail?
Fully extended. If you put in the flame breath and extend the tail, it's 6 feet long.
6 feet. That's huge. What about like a ship? So you have that's like a vehicle in a way where you have the humans or the non-swimming can travel.
Yep. So I mean, we've talked about things like play sets. We've talked about vehicles, in Cosmic and stuff. One of the challenges with stuff like that is they're very expensive to produce and there's a lot less reuse possibilities. This line, we are still a very small company. This line, since day one, was built on smart reuse of parts. So when you do something like a ship, it's really hard to use that as anything but a ship. I mean, you can repaint the ship, but it limits what you can do. So the amount of upfront cost versus what you're going to get out of it from a business standpoint, it's really hard to justify that. And ultimately, we have a lot of fans that won't even buy our horses because of how much space they take up. You know,
that makes sense. Yeah.
I have a lot of fans that say that, hey, the horses are great, I just can't fit them. The trolls, I can't fit them. So going bigger with a castle playset or a ship playset or, you know, a big starship or whatever, they're all things we would love to do, but this is where we have to kind of temper our enthusiasm as collectors and, you know, toy, like, want to display stuff with the business side of like, hey, do the numbers play out that this is something we realistically could do and not lose our shirts? So who knows what the future could hold? We might do something like that, but that's one of the reasons we've yet to do that. You know, doing the Dragon was a very big step forward in terms of the type of thing that we're producing. So right now we're focused on like, hey, let's get that out into people's hands before we start thinking of any other big scale projects.
I mean, this is where you could shout out a lot of the customizers as well. I know Detour Customs makes a ship, and he does a really good job with it too. I own one. Yeah, I own one, and the fact that you could replace the ends of the ships to have different like pieces, you know, like a different whether you want to put a different logo or a different style, like it's actually a really cool idea. And you could attach shields to the sides. So,
and you know, beyond that, you talk about the customizers, people at Legions Con and stuff. There are so many amazing diorama creators and all ranges. You know, there are people that are incredible that charge a lot of money because their work is 100% worth that. There's a lot of great creators charging a lot less for that, for smaller pieces and stuff. There's a piece out there for almost any budget. You know,
I was gonna say that you will, if you go to Legions Con, you'll find creators from everywhere, and then they have their price ranges go from like pretty much they're giving it away to very expensive. But again, a lot of it is great stuff, and guarantee you will find, even if you're not into like Four Horsemen or like the, you know, Sword and Sorcery, you will find stuff you can attach to other like GI Joe things. You know,
I imagine when you guys are at that show, you see that stuff, you're like, well, we got these guys doing that aspect of it. Let's stick to the figures and just
I mean, there's so many.
Exactly.
There's so many great dio creators, and Abby, you know, as you mentioned, you have people doing everything. Someone like Crashbox Customs has, you know, fantasy pieces and science fiction pieces. Someone like Duart Studios has got a wide variety of stuff. I mean, he's got little pieces for display things to giant pieces and stuff. I mean, Brian's got a wide range. There's so many people. Lone Wolf, Drunk Gizmo. I mean, I could keep going through them. Diabolic, Eric Bryson. These are just the ones that are popping in my head that are diorama creators that are there. And then you have other people that are doing little pieces like Harvard Customs with their torches. There's so much there that you can get, whether it's fantasy, science fiction, military, whatever. There's so many options out there. You don't necessarily need a company to put out a playset. You can get really, really great stuff. And a lot of times you can get it to your specifications because a lot of them take commissions. So if you have something specific you want, you can actually work with them to get exactly what you want in a way that you wouldn't get from, you know, a Four Horsemen Studios.
Right.
Yeah,
you're dead on. It's that's the greatest thing about what's happening in this community, that these guys that are creating all these things. So again, like Talib said, you don't necessarily have to, because there are so many others that are creating great stuff in that area. You can stay focused. My opinion on it is you stay focused on the figures, because these guys kind of got you covered on the other side of things.
It's true.
You know, it's like
like you mentioned, like Duarte Studio. Like, I mean, he's got so much thing. You like the dios to like the little like the little pieces, accessory pieces. I mean, that's a Duarte piece right there. Yeah,
I got this at Toylanta from Duarte, and it's absolutely amazing, and it's full 360, so you can for whatever you want to do, whatever angle you want. If you're taking photography, taking shots,
dude, I
You know?
I have a really great piece that Brian did for me a couple years ago. That's like a wooden door with. It's a very woodland style piece. It's in my one of my display cases with figures displayed on it. But you're right. He's got everything from giant dios to like little barrels and like little like tiny little like boxes and stuff, little things that you can just put into, whether it's figure photography, whether it's displays in your cases. Yeah, I mean, again, Brian has got a range of different sizes and prices and stuff like that. And yeah, for sure, there's a lot of options out there.
His stuff looks really good too. I agree with that. Because I have a bunch of Brian's like the little canisters, and then like the porta potty, and like the piece that Lou you just showed off, that Dio piece. That's not only, you could use that for so many different toy lines, not just one, right? Then that's the beauty about a lot of these Dio makers and these creators who do this stuff, and they showcase their stuff at the shows, and I love watching it because it's honestly like I don't have that gift at all. So when I go, I love looking at it
too. That's the whole thing, is a lot of these people that are exhibiting at these shows and are making these pieces, a lot of them are doing it because they started because they wanted it for their own collections.
Right.
So many customizers and creators, they did something for themselves and somebody said, that's awesome, can you make me one? And that's what kind of springboards into this stuff.
Exactly. It snowballs and becomes something amazing for them. And that's the thing too, like you're saying, you can go to some of these Dio creators and these accessory creators and just sit there and kind of look and start using your own imagination to figure out, how can I make this work for me? Because there's so much to choose from. And that's kind of the way I got into it. I've got a bunch of Duarte stuff. I've got a bunch of there's a Lone Wolf. I need to see Lone Wolf, because they have, I saw their booth at, somebody did a quick video of their booth. It could have been them actually, at Zolocon, and I was just drooling. This stuff was amazing. I'm like, I want all of this.
They've got some really great stuff as well.
They do. They really do. And again, across all types of toy lines, there are people doing amazing work for wherever, whether you're military, GI Joe, whether you're fantasy line, mythic, superheroes, all of it. There's so much out there. So,
and if you talk to these creators, that's the cool thing too. You go to the show, like, dude, ask them about the piece. Tell me about this piece. Tell me about creating this. Like, what went into it? Like, the person, you're not buying it from a shopkeeper that's like, I don't know where that came from. I bought it from my distributor or whatever. Like, when you're at one of these shows, you're talking to the person who carved that foam, who painted that dio, who did every single piece of it. And they'll tell you a story about it that will make you like it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you see at Toylanta, because you were there, did you get a chance to talk to Bama Freddy, who was over there? He was doing dios as well. He was, I think he was one aisle over from you guys.
Okay, so and did he have like a bunch of turtle stuff?
Yes, he did.
Oh, yes. I didn't recognize the name you just said, but yeah, amazing stuff right there in crazy affordable prices.
No doubt, exactly.
Crazy.
I was able to pick up one from him. So you saw it, and that's all his handmade stuff.
Yep,
right?
Great. Yep,
it's fantastic. It's very nice stuff and very affordable again. And I know he did well. So,
are you talking about at Toylanta? There was a diorama maker who, I mean, the prices were insanely low.
Yeah. Bama Freddy, because we were over there hanging out, talking with him. I want to say Winford picked up something. Keith picked up something. I got something. Yeah.
I wanted to get something, but I just couldn't fit in the vehicle. I mean, I had to like keep stuff on my lap on the 8-hour drive home.
Next time.
I think next time I'm just going to drive by myself. So I wanted to bring up some more questions from the chat.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, or get a trailer. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've done that at Legions Con once. We had carts and trailers. It was interesting. C Shadow is asking, will Figure Obscura continue?
Absolutely. That's one of our important brands these days. Figure Obscura actually, it opens a lot of doors for us for new collectors because, one of the challenges we've always had with Legions is nobody knows who our characters are. They haven't seen a movie or read a comic book with it. We're not selling Darth Vader and Wolverine. So we have to introduce them to our characters and get them engaged in the story. But when we do something like Frankenstein's monster or Headless Horseman, there's a familiarity with those characters already. So a lot of our biggest fans these days will tell you the first Four Horsemen Legions product they purchased was a Figure Obscura. So absolutely it will continue. Now, at Legions Con last year, we said everyone's getting too comfortable with Figure Obscura. Everyone's like, oh, I know they're going to release one here. They're going to release one here. They're going to do this. Like, Figure Obscura is meant to mean secret figure. That's supposed to mean, secret figure. So we want to keep people guessing. We don't want to be too predictable. So yes, it will continue, but maybe not in always the way you expect.
Okay. That makes sense. Keep them guessing. Keep them on their toes.
That's what it is.
Poi figures it out. The last couple of waves figures have been selling out like crazy. Any plans to increase future wave orders, or is there a certain formula the studio uses?
It's a very simple formula. We take how many are pre-ordered, and that's what we make. We add a little bit of extras for shows, but we don't just want to say, hey, let's just increase the run by 100% because we'll sell them eventually. That doesn't always happen. We have plenty of stuff on our website that's been there for a while because we overestimated demand. So as a small company and a company that's got a lot of stuff coming in, we can't afford to overproduce stuff. So I tell people all the time, we do a direct pre-order. Right? If you buy from us during the direct pre-order, you're going to pay the lowest price possible, but you're going to have to pay up front. If you don't want to pay up front, no worries. At least place an order with a pre-order with a retailer, because a lot of retailers, they don't charge up front, but if you place a pre-order, they account for that when they give us their order numbers. Like all of our stuff, so much of our stuff, 90% of our stuff is still offered via pre-order. It's an open pre-order where as long as you get your pre-order in, you're guaranteed to get that figure. So that's what's been happening with some of these waves is there were a few waves that were produced in, really high numbers, or higher numbers than they should have been at least. There was a lot of speculative buying. People were buying extras to flip. And when everybody buys extras to flip, obviously there's not as much demand. There's too much in the market. So people got the sense of like, oh, I don't have to pre-order these. They're so easy to get when they come in. And when you have a situation where people aren't pre-ordering, retailers order less, but people actually want them after the fact, and then you have new fans also coming in, it creates a situation like we have with Rising Suns where even though that was a very heavily produced wave, obviously not enough to meet the demand. So we're going to continue making a little bit of extra to have at shows, but our goal is not to have enough to have at shows for the next 2 years. Our goal is to have enough for shows for the next maybe 6 months, because by that point, something else has arrived and we're going to flip the inventory. We're going to change over the stock. So that's what I would always tell people. If you want these figures, if you want to be guaranteed, whether you pre-order direct or you pre-order from a retailer and pay later, just get the pre-order in so your wanted figures are accounted for in the run size.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next, this is more of like a statement. I would say I would love to see some more Dark Templars. Sir Girard in the red and black is awesome.
I agree. I would like to see them too. They're definitely popular. It's like I said earlier, so many cool ideas, just finding the time and the right place to do them.
Yeah. And Goose with another question, a serious question this time. How did your mindset change going from hands-on customizing to representing a brand?
Mhm.
Did it reshape how you view creativity or storytelling as well?
Yeah, it did. I mean, when I was not representing a brand, I was representing myself. So I still tried to, have a certain kind of demeanor in the way that I approach things, both positive and negative. Representing a brand, obviously there's a little bit more on my shoulders these days, but really kind of what I set for myself early on when I started, like you guys, right? You're doing this show. You have a personality. You have people that are going to come on and they're going to, comment on what you're doing, and you have to decide how you're going to respond to that. So kind of the mentality that I had early on has really carried me through what I do today. The biggest change in creativity and storytelling is knowing how much to give now versus how much to hold for later. It's like when you're telling the story, you don't want everything, you don't want to drag it out for too long, but you don't want to tell it all in one sitting. You want to keep people coming back. So that's really when I was customizing, it's like, hey, I'm going to do this one custom, tell a story about it, and then move on. And there wasn't a long-term plan. Now what I'm doing with Four Horsemen Studios, everything is a long-term plan. We've got 3 years of story already written. We've got, a couple years of releases already tentatively kind of penciled in. So having to think long-term, big picture is definitely different than when you're just doing customizing for fun.
Yeah.
Does that ever get confusing when you have like certain projects in the can and then you're releasing projects and you're like, oh, have you ever like slipped up or anything like that?
I'm really good at knowing all that stuff, but yes, there have been times that I've misspoken. Probably my favorite one was when we revealed Beathir, the dragon, right? Beathir is one of the 5 pillars of mythos. And at the reveal special, I said that all 5 pillars are dragons. And at the time, that was kind of what we were thinking. And then when we actually thought about it after, we were like, ooh, 5 giant Beathir dragons is probably not the best thing to do for a variety of reasons, including it doesn't allow us to kind of explore some other items. We've got to do 5 giant dragons. So I then came back and someone was talking about the dragons, and I said, well, I never said all 5 pillars were dragons. And everyone in our community was like, yes, you did. And they gave me the timestamps of the video, and I had to say,
you out.
I had to be like, guys, G-Con is a 6-hour live stream that I do without a script. Okay. I misspoke. In that moment, I said something. I reserve the right to walk that back a little bit and change my mind. So that's always my favorite example of when I had to kind of say, look, I misspoke there. But beyond that, I've had story things I have to do to work around other things that have been written or said that in retrospect, I wish we wouldn't have said that. So I've had to kind of do gymnastics to not say, okay, that's not canon anymore. But there's none that I can readily think of that I just had to say, no, that's just scrub it completely. The only one we had to scrub was there was a comic book that came out with the first Mythic Legions wave that we have said is not canon. That's not there's parts in there that will be canon in the actual story, but there's what you see in that comic is not canon.
Okay, so are you saying that I actually did recall that there was going to be more dragons?
Yes.
So are you saying that there'll be no more dragons after this?
No, there will be more dragons. Okay. I genuinely said that all 5 pillars were Beathir style dragons. Okay, come on, guys. We were drunk on Beathir at that point. Because we were like, what
Sure.
color do we do? And when Eric decided on green, we were like, well, we can release this color and this color. We were drunk on just like repainting him and doing all these things. And then we realized the practicality of like asking the fan base to buy 5 giant dragons. You know, will we do another giant dragon? Absolutely. This is the only time you will see those parts used, but all 5 pillars aren't necessarily dragons, and they're certainly not that scale.
So, you know, honestly speaking, go ahead, Lou, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that. Have you guys given thought to, and you probably have, but have you given thought to smaller sized, different kinds of dragons for future dragon?
It's one of the most heavily requested things, and it's funny because for years you would see other companies put out dragons, right? And the dragons wouldn't be gargantuan. They'd be a lot smaller because there's a practicality to that. And there were always people that were like, well, it looks really cool, but it doesn't really scale with the figures. You know, I think about like the old Lord of the Rings line. They did the Fell Beast that the ring wraiths ride. It was a huge creature that was not even close to how big it should have been. Like to scale with that figure, it should have been twice the size. Right. But practicality, so we made something that was genuinely huge, and so many people were like, "Oh my God, can you make it smaller? Like this is too big."
Yeah.
Yes, there are smaller scale dragon-like characters in the realm of mythos, and that is the type of thing that we know people want, and we would love to find a way to be able to do in the future.
Yeah,
no,
that'd be fun to see for sure.
One of the things that I was going to mention was, you know, I would have purchased a dragon honestly because it's amazing looking, but I just didn't have the space for it. Yep. Unless you build in somewhere where it could lay on its back and hold up a table, like a flat top, and then I could use it as like a table. And then it could be perfect because and then I'll have a dragon just holding something, and then I could use it in my room. Then I would totally buy it because that's furniture at that point.
You got to get one of the customizers on that to turn Bayether into a table.
You know, there's going to be customizers out there that are going to make acrylic stands.
Oh yeah.
That's actually a really good.
I would imagine people have reached out just for dimensions to start on it already.
Yeah, people. We had displayed it on like a big like rock diorama thing, and people really wanted us to like do that. They were like, "Can you like put out that rock diorama?" Which is something we genuinely are exploring.
Oh wow! Okay, very cool. Yeah, because you had.
That could be your
think you had.
Table. Get the rock diorama to put the dragon on.
Yeah.
There you go. I would love to have a giant dragon in my man cave. To be honest with you, there's just no space, and like if it was a table, I would buy it in a heartbeat because then I could use it like multitasking. So,
there you go. A thick ass squat plaque dragon would be sick.
Exactly.
Plague dragon. My bad. Plague dragon. I can't read.
All right. We'll go back to the questions from the chat. Shogun Omega, one of our co-hosts. I'll ask a question. What was the deal with the legendary barbarian? Did the team just not want to deal with the Red Sonja license issue, or I didn't think it looked close enough to be an issue?
So this is the legendary warrior, the female version. So yeah, I mean, it's no secret that we got contacted by someone that was concerned about the likeness. And we've heard everyone say, "Oh, it wasn't close enough. You should have fought it." Look, at the end of the day, if we fight something like that, this happened right before we're about to bring these to ZoloCon. Mm-hmm. We fight something like that, you know, then there's the possibility that we're, you know, dealing with a legal battle and we can't sell the figures while we're trying to deal with that legal battle. So we, you know, negotiated, and they wanted us to remove those heads. So we said, okay, that's going to allow us to get those heads out there. In this particular case, it wasn't about who was wrong, who was right, whether we could win, whether we, you know, it was too close or not close enough. None of that really mattered. What mattered is what is going to allow us to get this into fans' hands. Anything we do but this is going to jeopardize us getting this toy into fans' hands. So we made the decision to remove those heads and to find a different way to offer them. We removed the heads, we lowered the price, and we're going to find a way to release those heads. We've already shown a Cosmic Legions head pack that you can certainly put that head on your Legendary Warrior, or you can put it on the Cosmic Legions figure that we show it with, or other Legions figures. Sometimes it's not about winning that particular fight. It's about fighting smarter and getting to where you want to get to. And in this case, that's really what it was all about. At the end of the day, we would just we want to get these figures in fans' hands. This is going to allow us to do that.
That makes sense, actually.
That's a smart move. Absolutely.
That is definitely the smartest move you guys, in this situation for sure. Again, for me, it's just not every red-headed barbarian female is Red Sonja.
Of course not.
That figure was made to be a very archetypal type female barbarian. She comes with 4 different heads, three different hair colors, 5 different heads, 3 different hair colors. It was very much meant to be like, hey, build it however you want. But like I said, in this particular case, it wasn't about whether or not we could win a legal battle. It was about, we don't want to fight a legal battle that's going to prevent us from selling this and at Toylanta and all these other shows that were in the proximity to our fan base.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Yeah. Another question from Sandbox Collectibles. How about a tease? If you could share a sentence in regards to the annual mid-year ML wave.
I'll say builders.
Builders, okay.
Yeah.
Builders Sandbox.
Speculate as you wish.
The Collectors is asking, will we ever get a chariot?
I mean, same answer that I talked about earlier with, doing vehicles and stuff like that. A chariot's a super cool idea, but again, it's a little limiting. It's one of those things where there's only so much. I mean, a chariot's a chariot.
Yeah.
And we'd have to think okay, how can we use these parts in other ways? Can we use parts of it to make a wagon? Are there other things that we can do with that tooling that ends up being part of the, decision? At the end of the day, we have to make decisions not only on what's cool, but on what makes business sense. So if we can kind of get to that point where it's cool and we can find a way to make it make business sense, then the answer is absolutely.
Gotcha.
And I was going to say, just check out some of these customizers too, because I've seen people create chariots for the Mythic horses and they look amazing.
Brian, we were talking about
Duarte. I was going to say Duarte has one. Yeah.
He's done a couple great chariots.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Collector is asking, what's the chances I can be an intern for a day?
And how many people apply? So intern for a day, we will be doing the lottery for that in the next few months. And same way as every single year, we're going to, draw a bunch of names at random, and those will be the people that will be invited to purchase the tickets for intern for a day.
Okay. How much are the tickets?
$300. So for $300, you get, it's for you and a guest, you get access to the intern for a day, and then you get the priority access to G-Con the following day.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Very cool. Okay.
And if you don't mind me just kind of following up, what happens for the intern for a day? What happens during that whole day?
So what it is it's a private day at Four Horsemen Studios. This year is going to be the first one that's at our new studio. So we've moved locations. We used to share space with a prop shop. Now we have a space that's all of our own. So this will be the first year in that new space, but we welcome everybody to the studio. We kind of do a big welcome. We break you into different groups, and you spend the whole day going through workshops that show how we do what we do. So you'll sit in, each workshop's about an hour. You'll sit in with Eric Treadaway, where he literally will take questions or suggestions from the audience, and he will sculpt on a screen while he's talking to you. Some of the heads that he has sculpted in those sessions have actually made it into the toy line. You'll see Nate Barch actually do packaging art and answer questions and do all that. Trevor Williams does a photography demonstration. We'll do a tour of the new building. Our painters will do painting demonstrations and show you how they paint all of those prototypes. We also, every year now, we do that Legion's Armory experience. Interns get first access to the Armory experience, and they also get access to a pop-up shop that we do at Four Horsemen Studios, which often has some pretty cool stuff in it. Last year, the San Diego Paladin Cleric which has never been sold outside of San Diego before the Kickstarter recently, that was available there as well. So you get access to all kind of that stuff, in addition to just a really cool day, a really kind of intimate private day, hanging out with the entire team from Four Horsemen Studios and everybody that's in the community that's there as an intern. And then the next day for G-Con at the studio, you get first access to the room, so you get all the best seats in the front of the house.
That's cool.
That's wild. Yeah,
there's also gifts and stuff. The interns get like special gifts and everything. Every year we do like a printed bust of one of the characters, and they get, and there's only however many there are interns, so it's a fun little like kind of prize that they get.
Okay, I've seen those busts. They look fun too.
Yep.
What state is the studio in?
New Jersey. It's in Little
You are in New Jersey. Okay.
Yep.
Remember, East Coast has all the best things. So.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. I thought it was New Jersey. I wasn't quite positive.
Yep.
Right on.
Yep. Now the next question. Oh, sorry, Lou. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask the next question.
Ask the next question. Yes,
Curb, how is it juggling 3 time periods of lore? The RPG being before the Rise of the Dark 4, the Second Great War, and the latest waves are in the Third Age. Aren't you worried about paradoxes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to juggle everything. So the RPG takes place during the Rise of the Dark 4. So it's literally like before Aether rises. So the RPG is it's really the same time period, the same story arc as our first major story arc, which is the Rise of the Dark 4. But now the new waves are coming out, take place after that. One of the biggest challenges for us is we haven't fully told the story of Rise of the Dark 4. I mentioned earlier that we have a lore book that is coming out this year. There's also a second volume of that I'm writing now. It's hard because people don't know that full story yet, but we're releasing toys that take place after that story. So we do have to kind of do some kind of, like story gymnastics to make sure we don't fully spoil all the surprises from the story before people get to read it. That's the biggest challenge of juggling the different time periods. The paradoxes are things that I can deal with more than just wanting to make sure that I'm careful what I say so I don't ruin any of the things we have coming.
In your creative process, do you suffer from writer's block sometimes, and what do you do to get over that?
For the most part, I continue writing. I absolutely suffer from writer's block, and I find that if I just keep writing, I may go back and get rid of everything I've written, but it's almost like you just got to punch through it. Like you just got to keep doing the work, even if only a little bit of it ends up remaining on the page. You got to keep moving forward. You got to just keep moving forward. So that's how I get through it.
Okay.
That's smart. That's smart because you can go back to it and say, okay, well, half of this is absolute shit, but that one part right there, I can work with that. Pull that out and start over or whatever.
My biggest challenge with writing is I'll write something and then I'll read it and edit it. And I spend too much time refining things where I have to force myself to just be like, just get the words out, like just get chapters, just pummel through. You can come back and edit later, because even if you spend a ton of time on it, you're still going to edit it. When you get later on, you're going to realize, oh, there are things that I did here that mean I have to change things over here. No matter how much time you spend on a chapter, it's going to end up getting edited again. So I have to force myself to kind of not get too focused on everything I write being perfect. Just get the words on the page, get the story out, and then you need a first version out there, a first draft, so then you can start that editing process.
That's true.
That makes sense.
Gives Me Toys, thank you, or submitted a question. Love me some soft goods. So just FYI, Jeremy, Gibbs Me Toys is he makes his own custom soft goods for figures, and he is an amazing artist in that situation. Amazing. He's made some great soft goods for me for some of the Jada toys I've had, like Street Fighter ones. Amazing. He's asking, what challenges did y'all overcome in addition to the Mythic figs?
I mean, we're very fortunate that we get to work with C. Jessam on the soft goods. We saw his custom soft goods on a Mythic Legions figure, and that's what made the studio say, oh, wow, those look really, really good. Because at the time, the soft goods we were using, they were just stamped pieces of fabric. There was no wires in them. There was no tailoring or anything like that. They were garbage. So working with CJ allowed us to really elevate what we were doing there. The biggest challenges, number one, they are alienating. There are some people that don't like soft goods. I used to be someone that just didn't care for soft goods. I preferred sculpted examples of what those soft goods would be. So when you put soft goods in, you're going to have a certain percentage of your fan base that just doesn't like them. That's challenge number one, kind of convincing them that, hey, give these things a shot. Number two is cost. Soft goods add way more. Tailored soft goods, nice, high quality tailored soft goods add so much more to the cost of a figure than I think people realize, that trying to add those pieces to the figures and still maintain a reasonable price point for the consumer, that's absolutely a challenge. Figuring out how do we continue to add all of this stuff in there and still keep the overall price where it needs to be, so we don't have to increase prices to retailers and to end customers. I love soft goods, but they are an expensive addition of figures.
Yeah. So it's a lot more labor cost involved, isn't it? Because it's not as, you make a mold, okay, you can fill the mold and then you get a part and everything else, but a lot more hands-on for the more detailed soft goods.
So if you think about it this way, a mold, like a sculpted part, is going to cost you way more money up front, because actually cutting the steel is really expensive. But once that steel's cut, you can reuse that thing over and over and over again. And even with some detailed paint on it, it's not going to break the bank. Soft goods, you're not spending the money on the mold, but you're spending more money on the individual piece. So if we think of a sculpted tunic on a Mythic Legions figure versus a soft goods, well, number one, we still have to put a torso under the soft goods. So it's not like we traded a torso. You still have a piece of, so there's almost no price difference between that, but now you've added a piece of tailored soft goods on top, so you are 100% adding to the cost there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I see, personally, I'm a big fan of soft goods. I love it on figures. I feel like it changes the whole perspective of the figure.
There are certain pieces on a figure, like the loincloths. Being able, when we had the sculpted loincloths, you cannot put that figure on a horse without removing the loincloth completely. With a soft goods loincloth, just flows the way actual fabric on this knight figure would flow.
Yeah.
Same thing with capes and stuff like that. So again, like we were talking about earlier with the double joints,
Yep.
it's another tool in the toolbox. When we did our RPG wave recently, we wanted those figures to price out at $30 a piece in the Kickstarter. So right out of the gate, we said we cannot do soft goods, tunic, and skirts. They're going to add too much money. We will not be able to bring these in where we want to bring them. So in a case like that, we did sculpted tunics and skirts. So a lot of what we've been doing lately is looking at how can we release figures and maybe have upgrades. You know, in the RPG wave, we had character packs. So instead of throwing 3 heads and, 8 weapons and every single thing in that package and the price having to reflect that, we kind of said, hey, let's strip it down a little bit. Let's make these the essential parts you need for the figure. The price will come down, and then all those extra pieces we can offer through character packs and weapons packs and things like that. And it gives the toy collector and consumer more of an a la carte buying experience that allows them to spend the money the way that makes sense for them based on what they want on their shelves.
That does make sense. Yeah. The next question is from Warp Frenzy. Is there any chance we can get rat/mouse warriors?
Sure. I mean, we have the parts that we used on the figure Obscura Mouse King. So, like I said earlier, this company is built on finding smart ways to reuse the parts that we've already invested into tooling. So, we've got mouse heads, we've got rat heads. It's very likely that we're going to use them again at some point.
Yeah. I actually got the Mouse King at Toylanta, and I haven't opened it yet. I need to open it, but I really just I want to put it in one of my drawers or in the kitchen somewhere, just to see my wife's reaction when she opens that drawer up. And but I'm afraid to put it on the ground though, because my dog, we have a puppy now, so she sees it, she's going after it. So.
Well, the funniest thing about the Mouse King figure is it's basically a 1/1 scale character, because if you think about the Mouse King, that character is meant to be the size of an anthropomorphic mouse. So that figure is basically the size it would be. So it's essentially a 1/1 scale Mouse King if you think about it.
That's true. Yeah.
I've seen so many cool shots with the Mouse King, and I was just like, I need this in my life. So that's why I was happy to get it.
Every time we drop a figure Obscura, the toy photography community just comes out swinging. They so many amazing shots, and we are so incredibly fortunate to have that toy community behind us putting those things out there.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
Absolutely.
The photography community, I think they enable us like there's no tomorrow. So,
love it.
Almost like
100%.
they're shot, huh,
real
Lou?
quick, Kaiju Daddy, what's that?
What's up,
It's almost
Kaiju?
like the photography community out there is taking the shot, right, Lou?
Taking the shot Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. Bill Varus, 2026. What are the chances for a different clan or type of vampires?
Sure. I mean, as we move the story forward, that's one of the exciting questions we get to answer is what happens to all of these species that we've come to know? What happens to the vampires? What happens to the orcs and the goblins and the dwarves? And, all of these characters, all of these species that have helped us form our first story arc, our world is going to be very much transformed in our third age of the story. So absolutely we're going to be able to see what happens to these types of species. So there's certainly a chance we could see new types of vampires as part of that change.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the final one that I had started was from Titan Shadow. It was more of a remark. Please make more standard warrior/revenant. I missed out this morning.
So that figure sold very fast. We also made a lot of it. That's not one that was really underproduced. So, this is part of the challenge of we realistically can't go and do second runs of everything. But we've got some ideas for ways we can do, I think, some things that are going to scratch that itch for people that are looking for that type of a figure. So it's always a balancing act. You know, we announced that the Armory Gladiator sold out so fast this morning that we're going to do a second run on those. Those were produced in much smaller numbers. So we said, okay, we underestimated demand and the numbers are low. Let's produce more. Something like the Warrior Revenant, that was produced in actually fairly high numbers. So we have to balance that. Like, what do we do a second run of? What do we not do a second run of, but instead maybe do something that's got similar ideas and themes that will appeal both to people that maybe missed that first figure, but also to people that have that first figure, but now want this as well, because it offers some new ideas along the way. So if you missed out on it, there's plenty of them out there. Hopefully you'll be able to find one at a reasonable price. If not, we've got some plans that I think will make you happy coming down the road.
Yep. Lord Adjust 2611. What's a good hashtag for Four Horsemen toy photography?
I mean, if you tag us, if you like literally tag at Four_Horsemen_Studios, we see that stuff all the time. A lot of times when we share like photos from the toy photography community, that's what we do. We go and we look at like who has actually tagged us. Beyond that, using hashtags for the character is always helpful as well. So if we're trying to find like pictures of, you know, say the character of Velox Spear, we'll look for actually that hashtag, or Figure Obscura. If you do a hashtag for Figure Obscura or for Figure Obscura, you know, Mouse King, we look at those tags to see that. But definitely the easiest one is just tag us, tag our account in your post so we can actually see it.
Gotcha.
And then I guess a statement from Shogun Omega. I want a samurai with a mask like my avatar. This is more like a statement.
I love that stuff. I mean, if you saw my Legions Con display 2 years ago, was a theme that I called Mythic Shoguns, and it was me doing customs that reimagined the characters of Mythic Legions set in like a fantasy feudal Japan. So I redid all of our main characters, including our Dark Four main enemies, as samurai shogun style characters. So Shogun Omega, I'm totally with you. I want that stuff too.
I am a big fan of the whole Japanese art, so definitely. That was the last super chat, or the not super chat, but the chat questions.
Cool.
I guess this one just came in, so we'll go ahead and highlight that one too. What are your top 5 MLs of all time? Is there anything coming out? We did answer this question earlier. Sandbox, definitely go watch the replay.
Yeah.
We did ask that question earlier.
But the second part, is there anything coming out this year that would move into the top 5? Very possibly. Very possibly.
Okay. All right. So I've got one. I've got a question for you real quick, and Shogun likes this guy. You got Shogun stamped. Hey, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Shogun's quite the dude. But as someone who's fairly new to Mythic Legions, I've known about it for years, just never jumped in. And I've got a few figures, not a lot, but I've got a Churl was one of my first, if not, no, she was my second. I love that cloak. It's amazing. So as far as lore and whatnot, I know you're writing.
Yes.
Where can we find this lore, and what?
So
a little bit about it.
The best place to find the lore that exists now is on our website, sourcehorseman.com. In the menu, there's a link that says like update on news and events. Under that, there's a blog section, and in the blog, there's a whole category called Lore of Mythos. Everything that we've kind of written that is genuine, like fiction, narrative from our world is listed there. So just digging into that and reading some of those stories, and some of them are bigger picture stuff. Like we did a wave last year called Horror of Einsamau that we presented the characters in a very short story format. So like every chapter focused on one of the characters in the wave, and we released them like, the stories one at a time. So if you read them all one after another, you get like a little short story, Horror of Einsamau, that the wave is based on. But that website page is the best place to get kind of an overview of some of the stories. Mm-hmm. The book that we have coming out this year, which is called Rise of the Dark 4, Volume 1, that is very much a traditional, linear storytelling format. It is a storybook mixed in with art and photography and all that. But that is going to all of the questions that people have asked, because if you read all the bios of the characters, which are also all presented on our website, we've put out all these little snippets. This book is going to tie all that together in a narrative format. But I would start on the website on that Lore of Mythos, and that'll give you kind of a bit of a dive into at least some of what's going on in our world.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
And then one question just came in from Lord Adjust. What was the very first Mythic Legions character?
So the first figure that was ever really sculpted was a knight figure. It would have just been one of like the basic knights from Wave 1. But Eric sculpted that. So originally, the figures were meant to be 4 inches tall. They were meant to be Glyos compatible 4-inch tall figures. But this was a period where this is before like a lot of digital sculpting where everything was sculpted by hand. So a 4-inch figure was sculpted at twice the size. So it was 8 inches tall. When they sculpted that and they brought these figures out to an event in New York called Toypocalypse, they were 8 inches tall and everyone loved them, but they also loved the size. They didn't want them shrunk down to 4 inches. And this was at a point where the industry was really moving to 6 inches anyway. And the Horsemen said, you know what? I think that is the direction we have to go that way. So the first Mythic figure that was ever sculpted was generally a 4-inch scale knight. Eric later on, they actually like roto scanned that figure and they blew it up to get a sense of what it would look like at a larger scale. Really bad, low res, crappy print with no movement. That low res, crappy print is still in a display case at the studio.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool. Very cool.
Little piece of history there.
Yeah. I'm going to get back to some of the questions I had because we're almost hitting the 2-hour mark and we don't want to take too much of your time either. So how did you get involved with the Four Horsemen Studios?
So I started as a customizer. I started as a backer of their first Kickstarter. I got the wave in. That first wave, I went all in. So I got every figure and I started customizing. When they did their second Kickstarter for Advent of Decay, we were talking earlier today about Intern for a Day. One of the pledge levels was Intern for a Day to go to the studio. So I backed all the figures, but that was my reward I selected. So myself and my son went to Four Horsemen Studios. This would have been 2018. And they knew who I was. They had seen my customs and they welcomed me in. There was other fans there as well, but I struck up kind of a friendship with them because they knew my customs. A month later, they were doing the very first live G-Con broadcast, which is when they live stream and reveal a new wave of figures. And I got invited to the studio as a customizer to show my work on air. And that's really what started, my friendship and relationship with them. About a year later, Jim Preziosi, one of the founders and owners, I was talking to him at another G-Con event, the second one where they revealed the Aerothere wave. And Jim said to me, "What is it you do for a living?" And I said, I'm in like digital marketing and web design. And he was like, "Why aren't you helping us out with our stuff?" And I had never wanted to be the kind of guy that was like, "Oh, your website sucks. You should hire me." Like, "No, our website sucks. We should hire you." So I started working for them freelance. Starting at that point, I did about 3 years for them freelance, and I just kept doing more and more and more work for them. And then finally we got to a point where we said, listen, if we're going to grow this, if I'm going to be a bigger part of what's going on here, I need to come on full time. So 4 years ago, I came on full time as the director of sales and marketing. And that's really been, I mean, that's still what I do today amongst other things, but that's my official title.
So that was my next question: is what do you do for them currently? But before you answer that, I did want to say about Jim. He is a hoot. I like talking to Jim, just because of the fact that, like, I remember meeting Jim a few times, and I always ask him like company questions, business questions, and he's like, he looked at me funny. He's like, "What do you do for like, what do you do for a living?" Because everyone always talks to me about paint apps and all this other things, and I was like, "No, I'm interested in the business side of things." Like, I was like, I'm business minded, right? So that's where I look at things. And immediately, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy who does all the business." I was like, "Okay, I'm talking to the right person."
There he is.
Yeah. But so currently you are the director of sales and marketing. And
so that is my title. I handle all of the direct sales, all of the retailer sales. But as we talked about earlier, I work with Eric on figure designs. I write all of the stories. So all of the bios on the packages, all of like this book that we're talking about. Because we are a small company, you do kind of have to wear a lot of different hats. I'm also a member of the senior leadership team. So the overall direction and strategic, focus of the company is something I'm heavily involved with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess here's an interview style question. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'm 51 years old, so there is going to be a point that I'm probably going to want to retire. But interestingly, before I came to this job, I was working towards early retirement. I wanted to be done as soon as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And now that I'm here, I almost can't imagine not doing this. So in 10 years, I imagine myself hopefully still telling these stories, hopefully still engaging with this community. I mean, there's nothing like this. Like, I cannot emphasize how impactful this is. Like, I've met people at shows that have come up and literally said, these toys have saved my life. Like, what the hell do you say when someone looks at you and said, these toys, this community, this sense of belonging has saved my life? And then they tell you very dark stories of where they were and how these toys pulled them out. And in that moment, you realize that, like, oh, this is not just about making cool action figures for your shelves. Like, people are finding a sense of belonging and a sense of creativity and a sense of community in what we are a part of here. So to me, that is Four Horsemen Studios' legacy. That is Legion's legacy, is the fans that it's created, the community that it's built, and the people that it's touched. So 10 years from now, I hope I'm still a part of all of that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's actually one of the first things I noticed when I learned about Four Horsemen and then the community. That was the first thing I noticed was, everyone's so nice.
Yeah.
Like, they're inviting in and always want you to be a part of something. And, you're inclusive. And it's a nice feeling to be part of that. Yeah.
It is. And I mean, like, we have Legion's Con, in 6 months, and I've seen people say, like, oh, I've never been to a con. I'm a little nervous. I don't know people in the community. I don't have other people I collect with. And I'm like, dude, come to the show, find a group of people. Guess what? Everybody there collects Legions. Like, they're all there with a shared purpose. You have found your people. Go up and say to them, hey, introduce yourself. This is my first Legion's Con. You will have literally made friends for that entire weekend. They will put you under their wing and they will say, we're going to take care of you. Abby, I've seen Ryan, I have seen him do that time and time again. Take someone quite literally under his wing.
Yep.
them around and show them the ropes. Like,
but Zarek is like that though. That's his personality, right? So
that he is like that.
Yeah.
But Ryan is a shining example of what this community is about, and there are lots of people that do that type of stuff. So yeah, that is absolutely part of our legacy.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Now here's some more questions. With Four Horsemen project managing other indie toy lines such as Legends of Ramayan, Corsairs, Creations, and Ashen Oath, does that eliminate similar characters from Mythic Legions?
So that's not an area I get super directly involved in. I don't do a lot of the outside. I don't do any of the outside stuff, I should say. But it is one of those things that we have to take into account. So when a company comes to us and wants to do a project, the first step is there's an NDA that has to get signed. And we have to say, like, listen, we have a lot of projects we're working on projects, a year, 2 years in advance sometimes.
Of course.
Where we may not have shown it yet, but it's already in stages of development. So we don't want anyone to ever come to us with an idea and us be like, no, we can't do that because it's too close to something we're doing. But we don't want them to think that we stole their idea. So there is definitely a challenge there. The way we get around it is we're honest, we're transparent. We're good people and we want the best with these relationships. So we have honest conversations and we make sure that no project we work on is going to provide a conflict.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate it. And then again, the Legends of Ramayan, I'm a big fan of those figures. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got one in today that I haven't opened yet.
I got my entire Kickstarter in 2 days ago and it was awesome. Yeah. Now it's it's sitting in my closet right now, but I will open every single one and put it on the shelf.
Your closet or your wife's side of the closet?
And my wife is mad about the one box in her closet.
Don't want you in more trouble than you're already getting into.
Exactly.
Sure.
Now, what is a dream license you would like to work on via Infinite Legions?
Every time I gets asked this question, I always say the same thing. Inhumanoids, which was an old toy line that included these giant monsters called the Inhumanoids. I have a whole set of them right on the side of me, but an Eric Treadaway version of Tendril, the big giant plant monster, would be absolutely sick. So my dream license to work on is Inhumanoids.
Okay.
That would be wild.
One named Decay or something like that.
Decompose.
Decompose.
I remember having that as a kid.
Yep. He was the reason the show got canceled because he had a rib cage and he would put people in it and it would melt. And the parental advisory council was like, no, that's satanic. And they just shut it down. And that was one of the big reasons why it kind of got all the negative attention it did.
Yeah, swept under the rug and ignored.
Yep.
And it was a phenomenal line for what it. Well, some of the toys were amazing. Some of them were not so great, but the idea behind it. That's what you see. That's the thing. If you could get your hands on that license with today's modern, technology, that you could make some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
for that line.
The big figures even today have a ton of shelf presence, and they're cool designs that suffered from the toy technology of the time. You're 100% right that with today's technology, those ideas and designs would kill.
Just think they made it in 1/12 scale. You'd have 36-inch tall monsters.
Oh,
now,
that would be amazing.
Now, another question is: what is an indie line that has no Four Horsemen involvement that you appreciate or would collect?
An indie line that has no Four Horsemen involvement. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is one that I collect that we haven't done anything with. That's Yeah, that's one. I mean, I'm really excited for the second wave of those with like the birds and the reptiles and stuff.
Hmm.
That's one. Skeletron. You know, we haven't done any work with Skeletron. I love the Robo Skull and those figures. So that's another one that.
Skeletron is like my new army builder right now. Like I want to buy. Like, I even told Ben, I was like, I want to buy 30 or 40 just so I could have a giant army of the with the red colored ones. Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
So those are two cool ones.
Mm. And let's see. What has the experience of Infinite Legions, where you are working on another creator's IP, been like?
Amazing. Like, so incredibly cool. And it's funny because doing licensed work is soul sucking because you it's just dealing with licensors and dealing with, you know, the minutia of not being able to do what you want, or in some cases what the toy really demands because of the licensor, is always a challenge. It's why Four Horsemen Studios did their own IP, you know, after doing licensed work for other companies for years. But the idea with Infinite Legions was these aren't just licenses we're going out and buying. These are partnerships. And that's what every single one has been. You know, starting with the project we did with Onell Design, like, dude, that's working with friends. Like, that's working with family. Like, Matt and Onell, they are absolute Four Horsemen family. So being able to work with them on that was an absolute joy. It was almost too much because we wanted to do, there were so many good ideas that at some point you're like, okay, we have to stop. Like, we have to stop and just like get it done and put it out. But even, you know, the one we did earlier this year with Joe Manganiello working on Archon the Cruel, you know, Joe is a famous Hollywood actor and everything. So that first conversation with Joe, you know, you're kind of like, oh, what's this guy going to be like? Like, you know, and 2 minutes in, you're like, this guy's cool as hell. Like, he's one of us, and he's geeking out about toys and fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons. So every single step of the way with Infinite Legions has been so much fun. And dude, I cannot wait for the next one to get revealed because it is going to blow some minds.
Is there a hint behind that?
Not give you a
I figured that
a little exclusive.
But I would like to end the series of questions and this interview as well with Legions Con stuff. Yeah. So you and Joe are the creators of Legions Con. What made you guys decide to start it?
So I met Joe, talking back to that, you know, the first times I was in the studio at the 2019 G-Con for the Aerothere Wave. I met Joe Viteri for the first time. Joe Viteri is a show promoter in New Jersey. He had his Toy Con New Jersey show that I had been to at that point. So I met Joe there, and after the show, he called me and he said, hey, it was great meeting you at the studio. I'm thinking that it would be a lot of fun to put together like a Mythic meetup style thing. You know, would you want to be involved? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So we decided to do it after Toy Con New Jersey on a Saturday. So Toy Con ran from like 9 to 5. And then when the show closed at 5, we just like Legions fans stuck around and we did like a little meetup. And we thought it was going to be like a dozen local people like showing some customs, but people were like flying in to come to this event. Like, we had around 100 people at this first 3-hour meetup event in New Jersey. And that really made us realize that, like, hey, this is something special. We can do something with this. And it created, you know, in a line that has this sense of community and has this sense of like artistry to it. You know, that's a big part of the you know, Legions Con didn't start as a toy show. It started as an art exhibit. You know, that's what a lot of people forget. The first Legions Con, there was really no one selling anything. Joe had a few items for sale, and My Action Figure Customs was selling some 3D parts. Nobody else was selling at that first one. Everyone was just displaying their customs, displaying their artistry. So to this day, there is still an art exhibit element to Legions Con that will never go away. But that's why we started it, is we wanted to bring together artists, bring together community, and just kind of celebrate Four Horsemen Studios and the Legions lines.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I think you guys have done a good job because, again, I've been, 3 times now? Something like that. I've been to 3 different Legions Cons, and every year it's getting bigger and bigger. So what would be your next achievement or phase for the convention?
That's a tough call because we signed a 3-year contract at the hotel we're at. The hotel we're at is amazing.
I was going to say, I love that Marriott, though. That's
everybody. The problem is, where do you go from that Marriott? Like the next step, because having a show with the hotel right there is essential. Like, we don't want to do thing where. So the next level is more like convention center type thing, which is a very, very different vibe. It's a very different culture as well. So that's something that we struggle with, is like, at what point are we going to outgrow our home? Like the Hanover Marriott, we've now been there for 3 years. We're signed up for 3 more. It's like, this is our home at this point. But we know that if this thing keeps getting bigger, which the way it's looking, every year it gets bigger, there's going to be a point that we have to find a new home. So that's a little scary, and we don't have an answer for that. Luckily, we don't have to answer that this year. I don't have to answer that.
You have 3 years, right?
Yeah, 3 years.
One thing that kind of comes to mind with how big Legions Con is TFCon. They do 3 a year. Would you ever think about doing that and have like maybe one on the West Coast in the spring?
So the problem is, if we do other Legions Cons, like on the other coasts, it's going to just dilute this Legions Con, because people that are on the West Coast, like, we're not at the point yet where we could support that. But the other side of that is, if you are at Legions Con and you see all the life-size figures that we bring and all the display cases and all the inventory, for us to do that on the West Coast, it would require a tractor-trailer truck. We make, going from our studio in New Jersey to the hotel in New Jersey, we have a cargo van and we rent a big box truck. And I believe it takes 5 trips back and forth to get everything to the venue. Now, obviously, it takes less to get it back home because we sell a lot of that product. But to get it out to California, we would have to put all of that stuff on like a tractor trailer truck. So there's a logistics aspect to it that it just doesn't make sense for us to do that. So that's why we know people would love us to come to, bring Legions Con to Texas and California and Germany and all these other places. But New Jersey is our home, and that's really where Legions Con is going to be. Beyond that, Viteri Productions, that runs the logistics of the show, they're headquartered in New Jersey. Their team is in New Jersey. Their contacts. So bringing that outside of this area also means we're starting 100% from scratch without the team that makes it what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes sense. You would be stretching yourself a little thin at that point if you try to do too much of that. Yeah.
Now, we do a lot of shows. I mean, we're going to be in California 3 times in 2 months. We're going to be out at a meetup in like the Sacramento area in early May. In late May, we're going to be at Monsterpalooza in Pasadena. And then in July, we're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. In June, we're also up in Portland. So we're going to be on the West Coast 4 times in like 3 months. We are going and doing other shows. It's just not Legions Con. We can't bring the full Legions Con experience with the armory experience and the life-size ogres and everything. That stays in New Jersey.
Have you guys looked into doing international as well?
Yes. I mean, we've done shows in Japan. We did a show in Canada last year. The challenge with international, once again, is you've got to get the product there. You've got to get people there. And then you've got to deal with the challenges of actually doing international commerce. So when we've done those shows, we've partnered with our retailers that are in those areas to kind of bridge that gap between like, okay, legally, can we bring product over the border to actually sell? There's genuine implications about doing that. So that's kind of how we've done that. So we've done some international stuff and we'll continue to look into it. You know, I know that there are people in Europe that would love us to get over there. Certainly a possibility.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I have no more questions, guys. I mean, I have a shit ton more questions, to be honest with you, but it's already 2 hours and 20 minutes almost, and we don't want to take more of your time because we have an after show to do. Is there any questions, Tyler Blue, you guys have?
No,
I don't have anything else for you. Nothing further.
There was one question in the chat I did see come up with Sea Shadow. Would you guys ever revisit Gothropolis?
Nope. So all of those old licenses, Seventh Kingdom, Magma Core, Gothropolis, those are all genuinely and permanently retired. So we may do things that evoke some of the themes from those type of lines, but the Gothropolis brand is permanently retired.
Okay. Jeremy, any shout outs you want to do?
Just want to shout out all of you guys. Thank you so much for having me here today. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the conversation talking about my plastic journey.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate being on. I'm going to sneak in one more chat question, if you don't mind. Dallas, what advice would you give someone?
The last son.
What advice would you give someone who is new to the line?
Look forward, not backwards. I say this all the time. It is so easy to go on eBay and look up some of the figures that are, $200, $300 and say, this line is too expensive for me, I'm out. Don't look back, look forward. Any toy line that has been around for 11 years that is popular, if you try looking at the figures that came out year one, they're probably going to be expensive. That is a sign of a healthy toy line. That's a good thing. Look forward. There's a ton of pre-orders that are still available from our retail partners. Come out to events and see us. We have tables full of awesome figures to buy. Come to Legions Con. You will never see more Legions figures in one place than you see at Legions Con. Look forward. Get in on those pre-orders. And then once you started building a collection, if there are some key pieces from the past that you want to add to your collection, that's when you go after those things. But don't get turned away by those figure prices up front. Start with something that's in stock right now. Get a couple of them, open them up, play with them, see what Legions are all about.
I agree.
Solid answer. Solid answer. And I would agree. Just as someone who's just recently kind of dabbled in it. So, and it's like, okay, I like this one. I like that one. And a little cherry picking right now, but it's fun.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. Yeah.
Being a completist is a very, very challenging road. You do not need to be a completist. We're over 300 figures deep in the line. Buy what you like. Don't feel like you got to get every single thing. We bust our butts trying to make this stuff available. Yeah, we do show figures and exclusives and everything, but we almost always do a standard version, and we try to make them available as much as we possibly can. We do, I just mentioned the Armory Gladiators are sold out today. We're going to do a second run. There's a lot of opportunities, and there's a great community. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen someone new go on to our fan community and say, hey, I'm new to the line. I'm looking for this figure. And someone's like, I gotcha. And they sell it to them for an incredibly reasonable price. So,
absolutely. Yep.
No, definitely. If you're not part of the Mythic Legions Cabal on Facebook, definitely go join it. Again, there's a great group of guys there. Mythic Customs is tagged in the description, and then the Four Horsemen Studio, the store, is also there. So go definitely check those links out. Again, Jeremy, I appreciate you jumping on. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me tonight. Good night, everyone.
Lou, any final thoughts or
final thoughts? Well, I'll see all of you guys on the members stream afterwards. Thanks everybody for coming out. Jeremy, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for more information, a little education, more help me familiarize myself more with Mythic Legions. No better than to go to someone who's like one of the main guys. So I
Thank you,
love
man.
that. Thank you. I
Happy to
appreciate
do
that. All right.
And go ahead, finish.
That I'm here every night now. So Lucida Base 3 on Instagram. Come check me out. I do figure photography. I have a lot of fun with it. I'm not going to do the whole rundown tonight. I did it yesterday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night on Talib1980 _collects at 11 p.m. Actually,
He's working on it.
Yeah. Well, I've got the script, but I don't know. It's just one of these things. It's like that whole self-promotion thing. But I do have one thing to add. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m., I will be on Khalil's show, Caster's Corner on YouTube, hanging out with Khalil. Come check it out. Come see that. But otherwise, thanks to everybody for coming out tonight in the chat. Good to see you all. Take it away, Talib.
Oh, is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Hey, tomorrow night, 11 p.m., come join us for Men on Films on my channel, where Abby Lou and Smudge Customs and Shogun Omega will be taking Stu for lunch's place because he's got plans. And our special guest will be Ayo Frankie, and we will be doing a tournament of films with robots in them. So it starts at 11 p.m. And then I stream almost every night, so just check me out.
I'm surprised you didn't go through your whole spiel. That's cool.
We're running late.
I'll add because
Lou didn't
you know
go
what?
through all his spiel, so
I will add because my show is pretty darn new. So Thursday is 9 p.m. with my partner, my co-host, Initial Goose Creations, taking the shot. Come check us out if you haven't already. Figure photography show this week. This week's show we have Pac Photos as our guest. Looking forward to that show. So
awesome.
That's it. I'll add that because it's only episode 4.
That's true. So next week, on Plastic Journey, our guest will be.
We collect the Mezcos and Marvel Legends and even the third parties. We shop the Legos and McFarlane's and we even check out the Barbies. We hunt to Walmart and at Target and anywhere with toys. We help each other out because we do it for the boys. Welcome to the Plastic Journey Podcast.
Stel will be joining us next Friday. Great dude. He's a collector of a lot of different lines and can't wait to learn about his journey. But now, a new show, guys. This Sunday, we have a new show debuting, Sunday Night Slam. Please join us and welcome.
Feel the energy, hear the crowd scream loud. This is where wrestling lives and legend. Stand proud, Sunday Night Slam. Step into the fight. Figure Fight Club taking over the night. Sunday Night Slam, hear the crowd go wild. Wrestling talk in the square circle style.
Hey guys, Marcus Buff Bagwell here. I'm going to be live and in color on the first episode ever of the Figure Fight Club's Sunday Night Slam. Tune in April 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and hear what is going on in Buff Daddy's life right now. I'm excited to tell everyone about the old and the new stuff in my life. Don't miss this event. Be there. I am Buff and I am still the stuff. Ha ha ha. See you guys on April 26th.
So this Sunday, 6 p.m., we have Buff Bagwell joining us as our first guest for Sunday Night Slam. This is the first show we'll be doing that's not toy related. We'll probably talk about toys eventually, but right now it's going to be all about wrestling. We're going to nerd out, geek out, and all that good stuff. Again, Jeremy, thank you very much for being on. I definitely appreciate you. Thank you to the chat, the replay squad. You guys are amazing. Members, awesome. Members, tune in for the after show. Give us about 15-20 minutes. We'll come back and we'll make it open mic style again, like we always do at this point. you're definitely welcome. Again, Jeremy, this was a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
We'll see you at another convention coming down the road.
Hope to see you all at Legion's Con.
Peace out, guys. Take care.
As we wrap up tonight's fun, the figures in talk, so we've just begun. Join us next time for thrills anew. In the world of Figure Fight Club, it's all for you. Make sure to subscribe and smash that like button. See you next week on Figure Fight Club. Stay strutting. This isn't goodbye, it's just to see you later. In the meantime, go check out another creator. So keep your figures on display until we gather here someday. Remember the tales and the laughs we shared. Here at Figure Fight Club, you're treasured and cared.